Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Dean Froilan Labausa of the Technological Institute of the Philippines. I will share now my presentation. Saan yung ano? Hindi, yung ano to? Slideshow. Ayun. Okay. Honorable guests, esteemed fellow speakers, deans and faculties, and participants from different schools and universities, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is indeed an honor to be speaking in this webinar. I would like to congratulate the organizer of this forum, the Ports World Malaysia, and the Professional Advancement for preparing the future professionals in logistics and business as early as now in facing the real world of business. By the way, I really enjoy the lecture of Dr. Winston. It's as if I'm also participating in this webinar because we in the ports, the ports really play a major role in logistics and supply chain management. So I will be sharing with you today just a bit of the challenges, and we would focus more on the present and future of the Philippine ports. My presentation is outlined as follows. The value of Philippine ports to our country. Second is the planning framework and PPA strategic priorities. And the third is the challenges. The Philippine ports have nowhere to go but up. As you can see, spectacular growth over the past 19 years. Although there is a slight decline brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, the smaller ship call is due to increase in size of ships, especially from the foreign sector. Domestic shipping is expected to grow with increasing passenger and cargo throughputs. Container traffic has registered the largest leap. As you can see, it's 160% increase, mostly in foreign trade as well. The roadmap of Philippine ports is formulated using key elements of the national plan, the ongoing transport system master plan study, the stakeholder consultation outputs, and the authority's strategic vision and mission. We, with the Philippine Development Plan for 2017 up to 2022, being the first medium-term plan anchored on Ambition 2040. PPA's plan is likewise built upon ambition not in 2040, representing the collective long-term vision and aspirations of the Filipino people for themselves and for the country in the next 25 years. PPA considers the direction of future growth, recognizing population, geography, and the role of cities as engines of economic growth, with the infrastructure providing efficient connective networks of sustainable urban and rural communities consistent with our long-term goals. The strategic priorities of the Philippine Ports Authority are, first, to build more to enhance mobility and connectivity. Next is to build more to promote smart and sustainable ports. And the third is to build more to improve doing business in Philippine ports. And this is where logistics and supply management comes in. In enhancing mobility and connectivity, PPA shall increase investments in ports to enhance mobility, connectivity, and sustainability. Cruise ports will be prioritized in key tourist destinations in coordination and collaboration with cruise operators, tourism authorities, and in partnership with LGUs and the private sector. Existing ports will be expanded and new ports that are essential to maintaining connectivity will be built. More new ports means connectivity, better alternative access to users, shippers, shipping, and traders. Connectivity ensures 24/7 port operations linking ships, traders, and cargo forwarders together. Mobility and connectivity projects enable cargo and passengers to access alternative ports that can readily provide sea and land transport connections to their chosen destinations, anytime, cost, and distances notwithstanding. Containerized cargo cost continues to grow nationwide, and gateway ports in the Visayas and Mindanao need to meet capacity. PPA has begun retrofitting with one container berth at each ports and by putting them up for privatization. Enable the private to continue with future expansion and development plans under the new terminal management policy. The PPA now is implementing the port regulatory framework where most of the base ports in the Philippines, like the big ports like Davao, Cagayan de Oro, Iloilo, Batangas, Calapan, these will be privatized in the nature of the private sector will be the one to manage. They will be contracted to do the whole operation of the port. Ports are among the most infrastructure assets exposed to climate change impact. Based on scientific studies, it has been determined that a sea level rise of 0.5 meter by 2050 exposes assets in 136 port megacities with a value of as high as 28 trillion US dollars. However, it has been calculated that for every $1 spent in mitigation, about $7 is saved in relief and reconstruction. These figures are too good to be ignored, and therefore PPA recognizes the urgency of need to retrofit or future-proof our ports so that we can prevent disruption in port activities arising from global warming. PPA thus will build more to promote smart and sustainable ports by undertaking an energy-efficient master plan for Philippine ports. Following the President's signing of the Paris climate change deal, energy-efficient measures for regional and leading global ports will be studied for possible adoption in our port environment, like the solar energy, wind energy, onshore power, and wave energy. This PPA will pursue an energy efficiency master plan study for ports as an important undertaking in its roadmap to address climate change and its impact on ports. PPA will obtain technical and financial assistance or wherever and whenever feasible, directly fund the studies and projects that meet the energy efficiency plan for ports. In order to effectively address climate change mitigation issue, it is necessary to achieve low carbon growth all around the world by mobilizing technology, market, and finance adequately. And recognizing this necessity, the government of Japan has proposed the JCM, or Joint Crediting Mechanism, so that in February 10, 2017, the Philippine Ports Authority has signed a joint cooperation agreement with the Port of Yokohama and the Yokohama Ports Corporation as a vehicle for enlisting global support and collaboration. The examples of energy efficiency plans include the improvement of air quality. So This is the objective is that to have cleaner diesel trucks, increased use of shore power for ships, adoption of hybrid electric power of cargo handling equipment, and the introduction of solar power and other renewables in port operations. Still on building smart and sustainable ports, PPA was born and grew out of the hand infrastructure paradigm beginning in the 70s. Built into the authorities, enterprise has been improving the physical demands of ensuring port operations efficiency. Thus, the IBRD port projects, we have the OACF or the JBIC funded port projects. Today, as world pursues the WPSP or the Sustainable World Sports, Philippine ports need to transition and embrace its theme so that ports are known to be nodal points in global supply chains. At the same time, they are embedded in local and regional communities. As a result, ports must respond to worldwide, regional, and local challenges such as climate change, mobility, digitalization, migration, and social integration. This, we join in the national effort to build, build, and build. And we consider this as a collective effort to also focus on the soft infrastructure, the DNA that makes port operations and processes at their highest level of efficiencies and are responsive to build to the built environment. Thus, PPA shall build smart and sustainable ports. Next is that the port will be a key player in the energy sector. Ports are the main entry points of energy commodities. Like, for example, energy commodities represent a substantial part of traffic volumes in many Philippine private ports. Ports play a key role in the import, export, storage, and distribution of fossil and other energy sources like crude oil, gas, coal, and biomass. Most ports are at the center of large population concentrations, hence there being the main entry point for energy commodities. In many developed countries, ports serve as hosts to industrial plants. The main industrial sectors such as shipbuilding and repairing, chemical and energy-related industry, construction and steel industry, and food and furnishing industry benefit from their location in a port for the import of raw material or for export of finished goods, thanks to the shortening of the transport leg. And just the same, this part is, we all know that in logistic and supply chain management, like in our domestic scene, here in the Philippines, we are how many? 7,100 islands. And so we are connected by ports. We are linked together by ports. So we have here in the Philippines, our logistic chain uses of ports. They use the in transporting goods. For example, from Manila, they have two options. From Manila to, for example, to Davao, either the goods are shipped directly via. They take the ships here at North Harbor, and the vessels go directly to the point of destination. But some majority of goods now are being brought to the, for example, to the Visayas. They take the what we call the Ro-Ro network, wherein it's delivered through cargo trucks, where they use the land land and sea transport connections. So that's how the port is very valuable in the supply chain management. Synergies and clusters are also created in the ports, which generate even more advantages. For instance, energy availability and the circular economy. A feasibility study for this endeavor has been started in Batangas Port District. PPA will also support technological advances and cost savings. For example, for the economies of scale, yet at the same time ensure a sufficiently competitive environment so that the cost savings are effectively passed on to the clients, that is, the importers and exporters. The Philippine ports are facing landside congestion issues. The Manila solution adopting the vehicle booking appointment system will be expanded to include other major ports facing similar problems. Other smart solutions, such as the single window, vessel traffic management, and innovative digitalization technologies, will be introduced in the most effective way in priority ports so that they can become efficient and seamless entry and exit points for sea passengers, tourists, cargo, and trade. Innovative technologies that drive ports to become smart also allow authorities to monitor and measure how ports can become even more safe, secure, and sustainable. Build in improving doing business in the Philippines, the PPA shall pursue certification of ports to quality managed systems in the integrated management system QMS and IMS. As of now, we have the big ports where we have we are certified ISO. I think now is 9,015 something. I'm not so familiar, but then this is the program that the Philippine Ports Authority is doing now to improve doing business in the Philippine ports. We also support the establishment of a single maritime window, and PPA shall establish a stronger public-private partnership under the Port Terminal Management Regulatory Framework, where the private sector participation is encouraged in the financing, development, management, operation, and maintenance of ports nationwide. As of date, the PPA has already bidded out about 10 ports to the private sector as it started in 2020, and we still have to, I think, to privatize about 5 ports. So by 2022, majority of all the big ports nationwide will be operated by the private sector. So what are the challenges that are faced by managing the ports in the Philippines? The first is the order instability in port administration are also linked to the health of our system. First is on geography and how to connect all significant islands all together. Very much like neighboring Indonesia and countries with many islands and long coastlines, such as Japan, but unlike countries with limited or fewer number of port areas serving their trade and commerce, we're able to capitalize on the strength of scale economies. Our geography prescribes the ultimate challenge, imposes, if not influence, the limitations on what a port authority can do. This geography also dictates the structure and network configuration of supply chain and logistic efficiencies. With such geographic dispersion, or as some would call it, fragmentation, the ultimate challenge confronting PPA in particular and the transport planners and builders in general. Another challenge is on port congestion. What are the factors causing congestion of the port? The first is trade imbalance. Next is the overstaying containers. We have two international ports here in Manila. One is South Harbor, and the one is the Manila International Container Port. So sometimes because of the delay in the processing of papers, you know how the clearing of foreign containers are. It takes a lot of sometimes days to clear and to withdraw the containers because it passes through the inspection of the Bureau of Customs. So usually sometimes the cause of port congestion is there are overstaying containers, and there are many factors involving why these containers overstay. Either their documents are not in order, and the Bureau of Customs ensures that what is stated in the manifest is the right cargo. So I know that some of you have heard about these problems here. Actually, it involves also the trackers. The trackers also play a big role, and sometimes there is the trackers also have problems that they could not withdraw their the cargoes that were assigned to them. And then the next factors affecting port congestion is the empty container management. Usually, I know those who are familiar in the operation of the port. These empty containers, for example, it has been already delivered. This import cargos, and then the empty containers usually they are not taken back. So the empty containers piles up in the port, and the ships usually they have a quota. For example, foreign vessels, they have a quota of because it's not they are carrying cargos intended not only for the Philippines. For example, the vessel coming from China, they have cargos that they will unload in the Philippines, but they will move forward to their next destination. So when these containers were unloaded and delivered to the consignee, these are not picked up by the same vessel. So there's a piling up of empty containers. So one problem is how to manage the empty containers to be brought back to the original shipper consignees. Another factor is the rail intermodal link. In this area, we are not yet utilizing most of our rail is not that developed yet. Another concern is the road connectors. I don't know if some of you have gone here in North Harbor. How in the port area from South Harbor to MICT and to North Harbor, you know that the road really is very narrow, and there's really a need to expand because like for example, during the afternoon, you will encounter really so traffic. For example, I'm here at North Harbor. If I go home and it's really peak hours, uh, from North Harbor going to South Harbor, it will take me more than 30 minutes because it's really congested because of the narrow roads leading to the port. Another factor is the Metro Manila cargo destination. So really the port and the roads, you know, there are it causes traffic like these containers. Like before the container vans are not allowed at Ross Boulevard, but now they are allowed. So another factor in port congestion is trade peaks, and the last but not the least are the laws and ordinances. Another challenge is that ports are not warehouses. The ports are just a staging area facilitating interface between two different modes of transport. It has a transit function and should not be utilized for long-term storage purposes. The port is just a node in a vast and complex network of the logistics supply chain, and therefore problems on congestion is not a concern of the port alone, but rather better addressed through intersectoral and interagency cooperation. Hence, the current problem on port congestion is an issue that requires a solution with creating a sectoral interagency cooperation. So what did PPA do to address this port congestion? So the congestion measures being implemented by PPA until today in coordinating with other government agencies, which were promulgated to arrest the port congestion, are the following: the lowering of port charges at the Port of Batangas to entice vessels to utilize Batangas as an alternative port of Manila. Next is the signing of a memorandum of agreement between PPA and SBMA for Subic to accept cargoes and containers intended for Manila. And the next is the extended port working hours to allow container deliveries from port even during weekends and holidays when the road traffic is light, and the agreement with the Bureau of Customs and the PNP to remove on hold, abandoned, and overstaying imported cargoes containers. Another is the commissioning of sweepers for empty containers to cause the charging of vessels as sweepers of empty containers. So this is one where they charter vessels to carry just empty containers. Next is the operation of dry terminals or off-dock depot in Bulacan, Laguna, and Cavite. The Asian Terminals Incorporated, the terminal operator of South Harbor, and the ICTSI, or the Internal Container Terminal Services Incorporated, who operates MICT, they have dry terminals somewhere in Batangas, and the other one is somewhere in Cavite. And the operation of private warehouses during nighttime to maintain truck dwell time at a minimum and make more trips deliveries. And the last is the imposition of higher port storage charges to discourage overstaying of cargoes. So sometimes, yes, sometimes cargoes overstay and they are willing to pay additional charges for storage because yeah, there's so many reasons why they are overstaying, and as I mentioned earlier, one is sometimes I assume is that the documents are not in order, so it takes time for them to withdraw their cargos. Another measure is the issuance of Executive Order number 172 declaring the Subic Freeport in the Batangas port as the alternative ports of Manila during congestion and emergency cases. So this one, the vessels, if there is port congestion here in Manila, the vessels are diverted, or they are diverted to Batangas port and also in SBMA. So this is to address the port congestion. So in moving forward, the notice to the public issued by PPA in coordination with ICTSI and ATI, directing all cargo owners, consignees to withdraw cleared cargoes from the port until March 15. This was implemented in 2019. Or is otherwise, the same shall be transferred to inland container depots. So until now, this scheme is being implemented. So the signatories to this manifesto, this was done last March 2019, are ATI, Asian Terminals Incorporated, the ICTSI, and here in the picture, as you can see, is the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Secretary Arthur Pitugade, the General Manager of the Philippine Ports Authority, J. Daniel Santiago, and the BOC Commissioner, General Ray Guerrero, and Mr. Patrick Ronas of the Association of Inter-Island Shipliners. So this is the guideline. It's under PPA Administrative Order 02-2019. So it provides for the guidelines on the immediate transfer of overstaying containers from MICT and South Harbor ports to designated inland container depot. And this was published on March 21, 2019, and took effect on April 5, 2019. And that the PPA is committed to prepare its major gateways to meet the requirements of modern shipping and cargo handling. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Ms. Annelie Manese, for enlightening us in the topic, Challenges and Future Opportunities for Philippine Ports Administration. This is a very interesting topic because this too concerns supply chain management, because we highly regard the transportation sector as the backbone of the logistics sector. Now, ma'am, I would like to delve into this topic a little bit deeper. Actually, we have one question in the Q&A button, but that was answered answered by Dr. Charles Winston. But I would just like to ask this again in the Philippine setting, ma'am. Uh, every year we experience port congestion during the last months of the year and up to the first quarter of the following year. Is there a plan to ease up the congestion and increase capacity at our ports? And if so, what would be the timeline?
Um, Actually, as of now, we don't have so much congestion because of the pandemic. There was a decrease actually in our ship calls and a decrease in also in the incoming cargos because of the pandemic and
Mhm.
because of following so many protocols. So during the pandemic and starting in 2020 is because there's a limit on the
Yeah.
transport of goods, and
Mhm.
what is prioritized are really the
Mhm.
basic commodities. So uh, for a while in 2020, very seldom vessels. So many vessels really had
Mhm.
suffered. So in the foreign scenario in South Harbor and ATI, like for example, to address so that the to address the congestion in MICT, we transfer some containers are transferred here in North Harbor because we have available space. The container terminal, there are available space. So the foreign containers are claimed, it's transferred here.
Mhm.
One is through trucks, and um, the the container vans are loaded in actually two vessels like the to go, and they store it here at
Mhm.
we call it transferred container from foreign to domestic. So
Yeah.
if all the papers are cleared and they have paid all port dues and the tariff, so the containers are brought here in North Harbor, and then they claim from here. So it helps the congestion in MICT. But then this matter on congestion, it's not only the Philippine Port, it's not only the program, the Philippine Ports Authority, because the PPA is we provide the port. Our core function is development and maintenance of
Mhm.
the port. But then on cargo operations is the Bureau of Customs play a major role. So, and then the availability of our tracking, and it's how because in supply and chain management, the cargo forwarders are involves uh, greater role also. It's how fast they process the documents that are needed to clear the cargos. So yeah, it's a partnership. It's not only PPA, but it's that's why in the manifesto
Mhm.
it's a partnership with PPA and the Bureau of Customs.
Okay. So we have another question actually here pertaining to customs, but I think you had answered that question. It well, actually you hit two birds with just one answer, ma'am, because he or she asked the function of customs, no, the customs sector in the logistics industry. So I think
Yeah.
that was answered already. No, so
They're the one clearing the cargos.
yes. Another question. You've said a while ago that the Philippine Ports Authority is also in line or also in support of the robust infrastructure plan of the country, and that
Yeah.
is the Build program.
Yeah.
No, given the fact that some of these infrastructure programs are, if not that fully finished or partially finished, they are still they're still developed or being in the planning process, would you think that the delay in these transportation infrastructure would also hamper logistics and supply and the flow of services from
Yeah,
door to door?
yeah, actually. Um, Here in the port, there are, I think, three major infrastructure program that
Mhm.
is lined up. One is the extension of the LRT, LRT2. It will be
Mhm.
extended up to here in North Harbor. There is also the Skyway extension project. And there is another one, a bridge project linking South Harbor and MICT. So, and we are in the process, this LRTA, DPWH, and
Mhm.
PPA are in the discussion and finalizing all the plans, because it will really affect even the implementation. But then their target, it's in the what do you call this, planning stage. But they are targeting that in 2022 early is the project would be launched. So, yeah, Skyway, LRT, and bridge. So this is all for the no for the so that the traffic congestion here in the port would be addressed. But then about the port development, uh, if you have heard in the new, if you have seen in the news that the president have inaugurated several in airports, ports, uh, throughout the country. This is to support the build, and from, I guess, our general manager has reported that we had about 200 plus projects that were implemented, and it was inaugurated by the president. So we are really strengthening and
Mhm.
expanding the ports to meet the global demands.
Okay. Thank you very much for enlightening that, no, because we strongly believe that transportation also contributes, to the flow of goods and services that should be done freely and
Definitely.
and it should be unhampered. Thank you very much for enlightening those questions or giving us those answers. To Miss Annelie F. Manese, thank you very much for being with us on our third
Welcome.
plenary session.
Yeah.
May we call in once again Ma'am Susan Velasco of the Global Professional Advancement to award the Certificate of Appreciation to our third plenary speaker.
So, Forceforward Malaysia, in partnership with Global Professional Advancement, would like to present the Certificate of Appreciation to Ms. Annelie F. Manese in grateful acknowledgement of her unselfish sharing of time and expertise rendered during the third International Conference on Logistics and Supply Chain Management with the theme Career Advancement Pathway in Supply Chain Industry under the New Normal, the Prospects and Challenges via Virtual Conference. Given this 20th day of November at Quezon City, Metro Manila, Philippines. Signed, Juray Raj Govindasamy, the Managing Director of the Ports World Academy. Yours truly, the Operations Manager of Global Professional Advancement, and also the President of Academy of Developmental Logistics Incorporated, Mr. Samuel C. Bautista. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be a part of this international conference.
Till next time again, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Miss Annelie Manese. I hope this would not be the last time that we would be seeing each other on this virtual platform.